We are on the air this August 11th, 2019, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, all time zones in between and around the world. Welcome to our weekly Sunday program. Every Sunday, this is on Kardec Radio. I remind you that on every Wednesday on the Facebook site, Spiritism and the Spirit World Around Us, we have at the same time, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, all time zones, we have a live stream on Spiritism and the Spirit World Around Us. So we have been talking the last, 8 weeks or so about reincarnation. And today, this Sunday, starting today, and probably, I don't know how many weeks as we go through, we will talk about the effects of our past lives on our current life. But first, let me urge everyone that when we come here, please, if you want to see this video or share this video, please share this video with other Facebook sites. Go to my site, my blog, nwspiritism.com. There are links there to subscribe to my BitChute, our YouTube channel. You can this video and all the videos that I live stream on Facebook, I will save and upload to YouTube and BitChute. Please subscribe there. Tell your friends to subscribe if you want to learn about Spiritism. I have over 200 videos now. Been a long, I don't know how many years I've been posting videos to my YouTube channel. So we have on almost any topic you can guess. We have videos on different topics about Spiritism. Of course, there's other groups of Spiritism. There's the Kardec Radio Facebook page, Kardec Radio. I think there's a YouTube channel, of course. They have great videos, and there's some good videos in English now. Unlike in the lucky people who speak Portuguese, there are lots of videos. So we're trying to bring more and more videos and knowledge and discussion about Spiritism to the English-speaking world. So please tell your friends, and let's get everybody on board so we can spread Spiritism. That's why we're here. So, and of course, why we're here actually is because of the main person, and that is Allan Kardec, the codifier of Spiritism. In the 1850s, he codified this book from messages from, he posed 1,019 questions to different mediums in different geographical areas around France. And he only used the answers if he had similar or exact same messages for the different mediums. So what he did was wonderful. There's actually going to be a movie out about his life on Netflix, I believe, in this month on August. I don't know if it has English translations. I saw it in Portuguese, but it's a good movie. I recommend it. It really tells you a lot about Allan Kardec, what he went through. He didn't believe any of this stuff, right? Until he was, it almost, his was much more dramatic than me, but it was like, I didn't believe any of this spirit stuff until it just like hit me right in the face and like, okay, I have to explain this. Same thing with him. There's things going on he couldn't explain. And then when it started to be explained, he understood and it made sense. So what a wonderful person Allan Kardec was. So we are talking about, and before I go there, a lot of this is all on, I'm talking about, you can get this yourself. This is on Amazon, Kindle, or paperback. The problem is the solution. 7 life complications sent to test and teach you. So what do I mean by that? So let's talk about that for a second. Spiritism kind of turns everything around, right? So there have been countless books and articles about how to solve your problems on Earth, right? And most of them detail expedient methods to rid yourself of the worries that concern you, or how to box up your anxieties and quickly move on. And positive thinking is a big factor too. It's always a good idea. But moving forward and not analyzing the cause of your trials may lead to a lesson not learned. So most of these books at the end, most of the programs center on how to get back on your feet and maybe make more money or be happier than you've ever dreamed of. Well, once you understand Spiritism, it turns that around, right? So these other books, they're not bad or useless, right? They're there's always something good to learn about that, right? But Spiritism rests on an altered premise that life is a series of planned trials. And these trials are more precisely deliberate classes to teach you exactly what you need to learn, all set up beforehand by this supreme intelligence. So, and I've said this before in talking about reincarnation, contrary to what most of us have been taught, we aren't here to be merely be born into a random family, survive childhood, escape our teenage years without major injury, and then it's off to the world to be successful. We are on earth, just as we were in previous lives, to modify ourselves. We are tasked to completely internalize the need to be a better, kindly, charitable, and honest soul. And to achieve this goal, this worthy goal, takes more than 1, 2, 3, or a dozen lives. It's a long process, and each successive lives brings its own type of schooling. And the worst parts of your life are where you absorb the most difficult lessons. It is these times that take stock of who we are and what we are being guided to learn. Shrugging off a trial you have escaped unhurt and not being cognizant of the consequences of our behavior in this life or in the past that caused a challenging time constitutes a real failure. This lack of self-awareness is a bomb that lies dormant and will explode later in your present or your next life. Now, oh, hello, soul. Now, what I'm saying, I'm not telling you to say, oh, bad times. I'm not telling like to self-flagellate, right? In those old movies in medieval times where you whip yourself. No, don't go enjoying bad times, right? Unless you can. What I'm doing is I'm pleading with you to look at them, that these trials in life, it's like running a marathon or an Ironman triathlon. Oh, Leanna, yes, action and reaction, exactly. So where the pain can be excruciating, the competition tough, and the bruises are evident on your body, but at the end you feel you've made it, right? And you've lived up to your expectations and you learned about the extent that you can push yourself. The spirituality has set our predestined lives to achieve exactly that. Before you were born, you signed up for the race, and now, whether you like it or not, you have to complete it. Unfortunately, don't we wish you're not allowed to exit or take shortcuts. You don't even want to know the penalties for departing early. I talked about that in one of my previous ones. What happens for suicides? So it's time to get serious and throw our heart into this race called life and learning. You have to be victorious and claim the prize. As the spirit world says, and I've read it in many books by different mediums, the prize for a good life led on earth is 100-fold more than any pain you experienced. I cannot say that enough. You will be rewarded for whatever sacrifice, self-discipline that you think that you've gone through. So, when I wrote my book, I said the problem is the solution. And you say, well, how can that be, right? And that's how we have to look at our trials. The trial is the solution. The problem is the solution. And if you're a part of the mainstream thought that we are on earth just one time and we return to our body, our thoughts are total accumulation of life events back to the earth, right? We just dissolve into the same material we were composed of after we expire, then the answer is it can't be, right? The problems are just problems. They're just random things that happen. Don't follow mine. I didn't do anything. It's just, that other person did something. Well, no. If you know in your heart that we are a part of something grander than ourselves, and we are here on this shiny, beautiful blue planet for a reason, then let's talk, right? No answer. I'm not trying to tell you exactly how things work, right? I'm just trying to expose things of why you're going through the trials, and for you then to take this information, whether you like to or not, and use it to analyze your own life, right? Just learn a little bit more about the circumstances as about your own life. Spiritism, quite plainly, unlike many other religions and doctrines, Spiritism is a doctrine, lays out the entire process of our existence. Accumulating more knowledge removes doubts and enables you to sail through hard times like a craft unaffected by rough seas. And I tell you, you cannot overestimate the effect of studying Spiritism on how it helps you look at things from a 10,000 point of view. And, many people say, well, can I just have love in my heart? And, the answer is yes. Love in your heart is so important. And it all really helps start from there, right? But to study is, and increasing that love is good. But then when you actually study and you start analyzing each event, and then you look at through a different perspective, a different lens, you're actually rewiring your personality. And what do you have when you leave this body, when you leave the earth? All you have is your character and your personality. That's the real gem, right? And that's why studying and instilling new habits of thought and, ratiocination processes of how you analyze events, analyze yourself, analyze other people, right? How you react to other people when they do stupid or dumb things to you, right? It all really is so important. And it makes you, it's like you can sail through hard times like a boat unaffected by rough seas, right? Whereas Freud looked back to childhood for explanations for many phobias and problems. Spiritists realize we are on earth to learn from our past wrongs and acquire experiences to become a pure spirit. A contemporary of Freud, Carl Jung, the renowned Swiss psychiatrist, arrived at a similar explanation. And in a future talk, I really talk about Carl Jung because he caught the essence. And he actually had an NDE that helped him understand the essence of the spirit world. Let's talk about Spiritism for a little bit first. The doctrine of Spiritism, as I stated in the introduction, codified by Allan Kardec in the 1850s, can be summed up in a few salient points, right? Investigating the details is another journey, right? But the way it works, Spiritism has brought to us, is it delivers knowledge via mediums by the methods of psychographing or visions or whatever, right? Which entails the spirit communicating the words or the visions directly to the medium, some cases pulling the medium into their world and letting the medium document their experiences, as happened to hi Barry, good evening, Yvonne Piera, who's just a wonderful medium. So the vast majority, and this is part of talking about the studying part, right? The vast majority of books are directed prose to the medium, which is written down, collated, and then published. And of course, we're talking about Francisco C. Xavier, Leon Denis, who actually wrote a lot of himself, but I think he probably had either intuitive or psychography. And of course, Francisco C. Xavier did more than 450 books, almost 500 books now, since they've been giving his accumulating books from his old writings, right, at the end. And of course, Chico Xavier gave all his royalties to a foundation. He lived a very simple life, and he was the first to tell everyone that he never wrote anything. All were a gift from the spirit world. And Chico's part of a tradition of spiritist mediums who live modestly and, for the most part, volunteer their time to help others. And the mediums who follow the spiritist doctrine do not charge for delivering messages to the individual. The belief is that mediumship is a gift from God and should be used for the greater good of all. Mediums who accept money, like fortune tellers or whatever, from individuals for services, will after a time see less communication from advanced spirits. As we've been told, the level of the medium affects the level of the spirit coming to talk to him or her, right? So a medium with a lot of grounded knowledge and knowledge of the spirit world will get higher level spirits who have more information and be more lucid in their explanation of things than a lower level medium who just had that talent, but then never really studied. So the important point of what I'm talking about is this: the cumulative library of books and messages are not the work of isolated otherworldly intelligence or the static output of one person. And that was really all Allan Kardec really meant to it. He wanted multiple mediums, right? He didn't want to say, I'm just channeling, Spirit X. No, he wanted to say that he talked to many. So they're part of a concerted effort that's been here since, Lao Tzu, Buddha, Socrates, Jesus, of course, the governor of our planet. All of these have been here to tell us over and over the same eternal message, right? And it's all, a lot of it boils down to the golden rules of Spiritism, is do unto others as you'd want others to be done to you. And Socrates said the same thing. So we need to recognize that they're giving us this message, right? And we need to recognize that they've started for the formation of our planet, right? They created our planet for us to be here to learn, right? The world, this earth, was created expressly as a place for the growth and maturation of spirits. And think of the establishment of the earth like the construction of a new elementary school, right? Children enter with just enough abilities to go to the bathroom by themselves and exit with a rudimentary knowledge and a bit of polish in their social skills. And our goal on this earth is to learn and to graduate, right? And if we behave and study hard, we are given the opportunity to advance to a better world. Now, what may happen in this world is we are actually, is Earth went a primitive planet to a planet of atonement, the whole planet advanced, right? And of course, this will happen eventually to the Earth, the whole planet, as our thoughts start radiating in and around the Earth, and our thoughts are more affinity with the Spiritist doctrine that this whole planet will become a planet of regeneration, and the poor souls that won't get on board will be sent to another planet. So that's why we're here, right? We're here for ourselves, and we're here for everyone. Now, the Spiritist doctrine, so this is all about understanding yourself, right? Is I, in my book, The 7 Tenets of Spiritism, How They Impact Your Daily Life, which I would like to remind everyone is now out on audio. So if you like audiobooks, let me bring that up. You can look at that. You can look at that on my website, and I have a link to Kindle and paperback, and now audio. That's my first audiobook. It's The 7 Tenets of Spiritism. So just real quickly, just to kind of show you in perspective of how we should look at our lives. This is what I wrote on my 7 tenets. And the 7 tenets of Spiritism is really my personal exploration to how I found Spiritism, how I look at the signs and signals of Spiritism, how they impact what I do, right? And so what I said the 7 tenets are is, and this is just me, this is not other people, right? And other people can have other tenets. So you take from what you wish of this. Number 1 is God and Jesus loves us. Number 2, we are immortal spirits. Number 3, we live through multiple lives. Number 4, this is one of the main ones. During our lives, we pay for past debts and accumulate new experiences. Number 5, we live and learn in close family groups. It's good to recognize that. Number 6, our destiny is mostly predetermined. That's a hard one, because haven't we in our culture, when they had programs, old movies, like, oh yeah, that was written, and it was like, oh, what? That's a primitive belief. But now it's like, oh my heavens! I was amazed when I finally learned my destiny is predetermined. I thought, well, all those rude remarks I made about other people and other religions, I guess I have to take them all back. And number 7, we are assisted in our lives by unseen spirit forces. So Spiritism is the 3rd revelation. Of course, the first was from Moses, was laid out a code of laws for the culture and level of human advancement to that age. And the 2nd was from Jesus. So, as I said before, Spiritism was not the result of one's communion with God or Jesus. This was from many different mediums, and not just from Allan Kardec. It's been supplemented by Chico Xavier, Leon Denis, Yvonne Pereira, Divaldo Franco, psychographing other people. And Spiritism doesn't just care for rote prayers, grand edifices in which to pray about, clothes that you have to wear, dietary restrictions, and exclusions of any kind. An example in the Spiritism book, written in the 1850s, marriage is defined as a union between 2 spirits. Also, it's told us that spirits can come to earth in either gender. So hence, what they imply, they didn't say outright, because that would have been really dangerous in the 1850s. But they imply is that there's no restrictions on marriages, right? Marriage, what they said, is between 2 spirits. So what it does is Spiritism takes the loving teachings of Jesus and extrapolates them to their logical conclusion. This is what's so wonderful also about the book, The Gospel of according to Spiritism, which I would recommend. To me, this was is a great book. Let me bring it up. I want people to see that book. Where did I put it here? There we go. This, if anyone's ever read the parables in the New Testament and go, what does that mean? The last shall be the first. And, that's why, what does that mean? So this tells you, right? Of course, the last shall be the first is what interpreted as that those who finally discover Spiritism, us being the last as we go to the planet of regeneration. That's my interpretation. And I think that's in the Gospel according to Spiritism too, but a lot of this is in there. So it should be very interesting. Again, that's a book. You can get that on PDF, of course, on the EDICI website and Amazon. You can get it in Kindle or paperback. So let me continue on. So as I said before, it doesn't have any rote prayers or clothes or whatever. It doesn't even direct you to behave in a certain manner. What it does is Spiritism counsels you. It informs us of the consequences of acting against the dictates of your own conscience. And what have I said many times before? What's a conscience? It's a set of divine laws that are inside each one of us. That's why criminals are people who do terrible things, like I've done in the past. We all done in the past. We get nervous and we get stressed, and people who are nervous and stressed, they lash out on people. You kind of tell, like, they're stressed about something. They did something against their conscience, and then feel sorry for them, because it's not a good way to be. It creates stress in your body, anxiety, and that's not good for your health. So this is why it's so important to live your life as how you want to create the curriculum of your next life, right? If you veer off, then the trials of the next life will once more attempt to steer you back on the right road. If we don't learn from our trials, we have to redo them, right? And nicely or unnicely, depending on your point of view, there's an infinite amount of time to learn, because we are an immortal soul. So now let's talk about the effects of our past lives. So as part of our curriculum, we review lessons we failed in previous lives. Now, the sad fact is that the spirit world always tries to teach us the easy way, the nice way first. They're always trying to say, be kind, be gentle, be charitable, be fraternal, don't steal, don't lie, right? And of course, we always rationalize, it's okay, right? Yeah, it's okay. If I just take that, no one's going to miss it. Or if I just say that mean thing about that person, I could have something given to me, right? Or if I could stab that, coworker in the back, then I'll get the raise, and that would be good for me. And no, they don't need the money, right? Those are always, things we think about. Maybe hopefully not most people out there, but I have. So unfortunately, unlike schools that we're used to, if we get a barely passing grade on the lesson, and we can move on and never touch that subject again, like from my spot, Spanish classes came to mind. For some reason, I hated learning Spanish. Of course, now I struggle with my Portuguese. I wish I had paid attention. Typical guy. Renato, hi. So if I'd known I wanted to speak Portuguese really well, I would have studied hard and become proficient in language. Of course, that's the result of my own free will, my own poor decision. So imagine feeling the results of faulty judgments for multiple lives. Well, you don't have to tax your mind too hard, because guess what? You're living it. You're living the results of your mistakes in everything. And just like Liana said, action, reaction, everything. And I do mean every wrong action we commit comes back to bite us. Karma is real. It all comes down to the fact that we aren't allowed to pass until we get it right. And if you want to learn it the easy way, the spirit world says, oh, wonderful, God bless you. If you want to learn it the hard way, then they're going to give you the opportunity to learn what you have to learn the hard way, just like we do with kids, right? Some kids learn the easy way, and some kids gotta, they keep putting their head against that brick wall. It's not pleasant, but eventually they learn. So the metaphor I have seen used in spirit writings is that we are like the clay pot that must be hardened in the furnace to reach a state of perfection. And I prefer the image of the ancient Japanese blacksmith, right, who strikes the metal blade of the samurai sword over 10,000 times to create the hard steel, the likes the world has never seen, of course, until modern times. And it's just, it's like whack, whack, whack on that sword, and it's making it harder and harder every time. And it's that pressure is removing the air bubbles and the impurities from the steel to make that a really good blade. Well, that's us, right? They're either putting us in the furnace or they're whacking it with that mallet to remove the impurities. Now, the more we can help do that ourselves and do it voluntarily and do it through study, right, the better it is for ourselves. And as you're doing this in this life, you're making your next life much easier. In fact, there's this great passage in the planetary transition. It was a book psychographed by Devaldo Franco. And they were talking about these spirits from a planet of regeneration, and they were coming to Earth to help us. They're going to be doctors and lawyers and educators and politicians, people who are honest, non-corrupt, cared for other people, right? They were going to be examples. And in fact, they're being born like now as we speak, right? And they're probably going through childhood as we speak. They're going to be examples of how we should be, right? And of course, spirits tell us that the Earth is many people that you've never heard of are here on Earth just to be good examples. And it may be good examples just for a few families, but they are here. So the interesting point about this was I'm talking about people from planet regeneration. Of course, we will eventually become a planet regeneration, but that's when we remove the primitive emotions from ourselves. And they were asked, okay, these people are coming to Earth and they're going to be bombarded with all this, jealousy, materialism, desire for pleasure. Are they going to have, what kind of hardships are they going to have in their life? What is their plan? And they said this, these people have already been, proven themselves at least to be on the planet of regeneration. They're not perfect spirits yet, but they're well on their way. And as such, they won't have the debilitating illnesses. They won't have the tragic accidents. They won't have the drastic trials and pain and suffering in their life. They all have illnesses, viruses, colds, right? Whatever's going around, flus, but they won't have the tragedies. They won't have the sudden deaths, right? They won't, right? Lose a limb, God forbid. Those things won't happen to them. Why? Because they don't need that to happen. They have learned. They have learned through their wrongs in previous planets, previous existences, how to think and act correctly. So they don't have the effect of karma. Well, they have the effect of karma. The effect is a good effect, right? Karma has good effect and bad effect. If you do good things, your next life, there are good things that happen to you. They have the effect of karma, but in the positive side. And so a lot of people, this is the stage where, where you discover spiritism, you ask yourself, is it fair to be punished for actions that I have no memory of? And according to our modern precepts of our value system, the answer is no, it's not fair at all. I get this all the time. Why should I be punished for something I don't even know about? And the answer to that, no, you're not being punished. You are being trained. Why are we on Earth? We're on Earth not to say, oh, you ran a stoplight. Now I'm going to make you stop at that stop sign every time for the next 10 years to teach you this. No. You're being trained. You're being trained, right? It's an entirely different concept. Jesus and God always loves us and forgives us, period. Always. Their love is overwhelming and pervasive, and it's never withheld. On the other hand, it doesn't mean that we can excuse ourselves from our assigned lesson plan. When your child tells you he or she is tired of school and no longer wishes to take part in that gulag, right? Do you allow them to opt out? Oh, of course not, right? No. Go back to school. Sorry. And by the way, you still have to do well in math. And when you look in the mirror, you see a mature adult. But when in the spirit world glances at us, they see an immature, somewhat ignorant soul who still has a long way to go. That is where we are. And the next question one asks himself or herself is, how can I learn when I don't even know what I did wrong? Why can't I have any memories from my past lives? And there are two parts to this answer, and it's important to understand because it's a very good question. Well, how can I learn when I don't know what I did wrong? Well, first, we have to remember, especially when we're dealing with difficult family members, right? The spirit world doesn't like past conflicts to remain unresolved. So such entanglements from years ago could be the causes of issues today. Suffice to say, consider the emotional trauma you would experience if you knew your mother or your father or your beloved parents caused you bodily harm in another life, right? Or worse yet, that you know you're guilty of a heinous crime against those that you currently love. Wouldn't that be horrible? Jesus told us in Matthew chapter 18, verse 22, to forgive our brother 70 times 7, right? Jesus knew the long-term effect of a feud. It's amazing. This is why the gospel of Spiritism is so good, because these parables and Spiritism really explains these, it's funny, these things that you think, and actually some things are not parables, they're just like direct advice. We just didn't understand the context in which Jesus was talking, right? Well, forgive your brother a lot of times, because if you don't, you're going to have to stay with that guy for many, many lives, right? He didn't say that, right? He said, forgive your brother. Well, now we know why, because it makes life a lot easier for us, right? We just weren't ready for the truth, the whole truth, 2,000 years ago. Now we are, and we're expected to adhere to it or face subsequent lives in an act of atonement towards those who we wrong. Now, second, the spirit realm isn't looking for ever increasing intellectual ability in life after life on the physical plane. And that's another one. So, well, I have to relearn, math, you learn calculus once. Why would you want to learn it again? A great question. Well, the answer is we're not here to be intellectual giants. We are here. This is the most important thing. We're not here to be rich. We're not here to, whatever. We are here to adjust our character and attitude. We are required to crawl, walk, and run through an intense emotional gauntlet, so we will not forget what it felt like when we performed a similar despicable act to another person. Remembering what we did isn't as important as knowing deep down in the darkest recesses of our heart and mind that we would not ever want anyone to go through the trial we just had. It's that emotional quotient that's the most important thing. And in the spirits world tells us, like, yes, you can learn. And people ask me, well, why can't I just learn in the spirit world? Why do I have to come here? And the answer is yes, you can learn. You can you can transform your character. You can be a better person in the spirit world. There's no doubt about that. But the most efficient method to really modify your character is that white heat, is that pain in this physical world. And that's what spirits tell us over and over again. Because when you're in heaven, right, in one of the levels of heaven, you're surrounded by love and you don't have stress, and you're not forced to rewire some of those not quite perfect, habits and synapses in your spirit brain, right? These, the logical conditions in your spirit brain. Now, when you're in the lower zone or the dark abyss or, in the crust, whatever, yes, they go through hard times, and, they won't like it at all. They'll learn, but it's still not as effective as here in our physical world. That is really the big difference. This is I mean, and of course, in our immortal life, it takes, it's a few minutes. You're on Earth, you learn something, you come back. Of course, us here at the time, not like that, right? Because, a week's forever, right? So, remembering what we did isn't as important as knowing deep down in the recesses of our heart and mind that we'd never want anyone to do what we just did. I just repeated that, but that's important. The innate lesson will be recorded by our spirit. It will remain in our conscience and in our instincts. Two vital carryovers from life to life. This is the payoff for years of service. As we mature in spirit, we learn to follow our own conscience, right? And not to rationalize away the warnings we hear inside our mind that what we are doing is immoral. That's why I don't like, when I see the modern culture, they talk about relative morality. I think, oh, so many people are going down the wrong path here. There is a set of moral laws. It's inside each of us. We need to not rationalize away. And all they're doing is helping people rationalize away why you can do bad things to people. People rationalize in this culture now, oh, we can do bad things to that person because that's a bad person. Now, look, if it's truly a bad person who is criminal by the civil laws of our government, yes, you can put them in prison, you can arrest them. But just because you think they're a bad person doesn't give you the right to do bad things in their own conscience. They're rationalizing in a way that they can do not good things to people that they disagree with, right? Could be politics, could be morality, could be religion, could be anything. No. And they're going to feel stressed from that. That's why we just have to listen nicely and carefully and let people say whatever foolish thing they want to say. We can argue with them. We can, quietly state our case why we think they're wrong, but it doesn't give us the freedom to say, oh, that's a bad person, I'm going to do something bad to them. No, that's not allowed. So we need to follow our conscience, and we also need to possess a better sense as we learn, right? And as our conscience and our instincts become more accumulate knowledge, like the law library gets bigger and bigger, right? We possess a better sense of situations and people, and our instincts have been honed by watching a parade of different types of scenarios from centuries past. So we are given tools of the trade from our past lives, our conscience and our instincts. It's there. So when you see that oddly mature child or an adult who remains calm in the face of whatever adversity is thrown at him or her, you are probably peering at a soul who has benefited from their time on earth. On the other side of the coin, the less traveled or more obstinate spirit who refuses to acquire the required lessons from the trials assigned is quite evident. They get excited, they can't control themselves, they get emotional, everything, right? It's like, oh, yep, I know that person. That's probably been us. I'm sure that's been us. It's been me in, this life in my earlier years. It's probably been all of us in a previous life at some point in time. So I think that we can say we are certain of one fact, that we've all been in the shoes of those who are actually unready for civilization. We were at one time or another a primitive spirit whose first instinct was to grab what we wanted and pay no heed to the feelings of our fellow humans, right? Just like the child that takes the toy from the other child, right? So that's the plea from religious sages throughout history, to assist your brothers and sister, no matter their race, creed, or social situation, is based on the diversity of levels of spirits who are on earth and require help from their fellow students. While the phrase, all men are created equal, is true in a moral sense, whereby all should be treated with due respect. Not all men, not all humankind, men and women, enter the planet from an equal starting point. Some are more advanced and will be put in a position to lead the less fortunate to success. So, what's our goal? Why do we put up with running the obstacle course of life over and over again, right? You're alive now. You're listening to this video. What other planets have you lived on? How many trials have you gone through? How many wars have you fought in, right? How many people's lives have you have you ruined? How many people's lives have you benefited? All these things happen. And so the reason we put up with this is because we want to ascend to each successive level in heaven. And each level brings indescribable benefits. Each thing is just more marvelous. According to Spiritism, the end goal for every soul is to one day become a pure spirit. Your best example, Jesus is the pure spirit. Pure spirits move around the universe at the speed of thought, right? There is no barrier as far as the speed of light is concerned. It won't take you, billions of years to go from one galaxy to another galaxy. No, boom. I want to go to that galaxy and see what that planet looks like. When you're a pure spirit, you can go anywhere. Pure spirits are close to God and have enormous power over mind and matter. The ability to perform acts for good are unlimited. And this is the reason why we must endure rigorous training. Immense power demands the ultimate level of discipline. In the spirit world, thought is action. So when you think, and as the higher and higher levels of heaven you're in, the more your thoughts affect the environment around you. Now, some people say, well, heaven is your own, you create your own heaven when you die. There's some truth to that. But think about this. This is why the law of affinity is there. When you go to heaven, you're with like-minded spirits. Now, the earth, as a spirit tells us, you go from the objective to the subjective to the sublime. On earth, we are subjective, meaning, and we're objective. Meaning things, that wall is that wall, that mirror is that mirror, this table is this table, and we really can't change it. As you go into heaven, not the lower zone or not hell so much, your mind starts affecting the environment. And that's why as you become pure, as you become more intelligent and learned, you rise, because you have to rise to those levels of spirits who are in affinity with you. If they just put all spirits together, the environment would be like dynamic, right? Because your minds affect the environment, right? You could build your own house, you do this stuff, and then someone else would come along and tear it down because they didn't like the way the house looked. So that's why the laws of affinity is so powerful, is that we have to be, hello, Renato. Yes, God is present. That's from Gabriel. So that's why it keeps us, as we go in different levels of heaven with the law of affinity, the minds work somewhat the same, and you respect what maybe one group of spirits created the environment at that level, right? And you may add to it or subtract from it, but you respect it because you have that mental discipline. So that's why we're going through this rigorous training. It's not because, let's see these rats go through this maze and see how hard we can make life for them. No, let's see these beautiful, wonderful spirits. Let's help them advance. Let's help them learn. Let's help them have immense power. Right? What is our goal? Our goal is to become omniscient, omnipotent, and such that we too can help planets and, species and plants and vegetables or whatever we want, right? Evolve and be better and better. So for spirits, the ability to perform acts for good are unlimited. And this is the reason why we have to endure rigorous training. Immense power demands the ultimate level of discipline. In whatever circumstances, faced with gale-force winds of negative emotions, a pure spirit must always be calm and decisive, ready to support the lowest creature with the same love and understanding as the highest. Therefore, only by removing our blemishes with the blowtorch of adverse conditions and hardening our resolve by repeated tests can we attain the level we so desire. It is said in many Spiritist books, different mediums, that the benefits of emerging from your trials victorious are 100-fold more than suffering you received. So, therefore, as we go through life, let us recognize the trials we have agonized through They are a requirement. And I understand that when you are in the middle of a tiring and difficult episode, you wish your problem would go away. You desire a solution. If I could just get out of this. You know, I, we've all been there. What we don't realize, what we need to realize now, is that very hardship we must live through, that is the solution. We are going through that hardship because there's something we need to learn. Each trial in life is there for a reason. Now, you could have, and as many people say, a trial is there because of karma. But you could have other things happen to you that are just things that are broadening your horizon, giving you more life. It's like a child in school is taken to the zoo or the aquarium. That's not a bad thing that's happening. It's you may be born into a rich family, right? To say, okay, this is what it's like being rich. That might be a bit of a trial too, to see how you handle. Can you still be humane and a humble person as rich? But there are things that will take you to different places and have you in different circumstances to broaden your training, right? Because if you're going to be a pure spirit, you need to have a little bit of, not everything, but different aspects of, different lives on Earth and other planets. So the spirit realm, and remember this, with our cooperation in planning, lays out our blueprint with each hurdle marked for us for a specific reason. Either the event occurs because we must learn a valuable lesson or as an atonement for our past wrongs. The circumstances that we curse and moan about are really the gifts that we begged for when we were in the spirit world, so we could ascend. As spirits, we realize that Earth is a holy campus, full of courses, open and waiting for our participation. In spirit form, we are aware of the difficulties ahead, but we are certain that the payoff for rising higher in the hierarchy of spirits is worth any temporary suffering on Earth. And I cannot state this enough. We are the ones who asked, well, mostly, if you're in the lower zone of the dark abyss, the spirit world says, oh, I'll make the set of trials. We know what's best for you, because right, you're not going to be able to determine that. But for those of us, most probably anybody listening to this video, people who are interested in spirituality and spiritism, most probably with a great, confidence factor, you decided where you are in life, what you look like, right? What trials you go through, who you married, who you divorced, maybe. All these things you were part of, so you could learn a valuable lesson. And that as the weeks go on in the future, we'll talk about different type of trials you go through and what could have caused it, right? What do you need to learn from it? It is so important to grasp that fact, is to not, and look, try not to whine and complain. And of course, I say that before I became a spiritist, all I did is whine and complain when nothing went right. So I'm living, and the spirit world says, stop whining and complaining. In fact, Chico Xavier, when he was on TV in Brazil, and they asked, Chico, what do you want to tell the people of Brazil? He goes, well, do your job, work hard, and stop whining and complaining. To words of that effect. I thought, he's just telling you, learn the lessons you need to learn. So if you want to talk more about Spiritism, if you're interested, you can go to spiritismtostudy.org. You can get an appointment with me or Sergio, and I'll talk through Skype or WhatsApp, however you like to do it. We can communicate. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about. There's nothing, it costs nothing, of course. There's nothing you have to read. It's just your questions are there, and I can point you to different resources if you want to be pointed there. It's all up to you. Mm-hmm. So I just want to make sure you have that opportunity. It's spiritismstudy.org. Please share this video with your friends. Please come to YouTube or the BitChute channel and share that and comment on it if you would like. And of course, if you want to know more about what we're talking about this week and the weeks ahead, I go in a much greater depth in my book, The Problem is the Solution, 7 Life Complications Sent to Test and Teach You. So I hope this has been helpful tonight. I I appreciate everyone being here and listening to me. And we will be back online, live streaming Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, all time zones. And then, of course, remember on Wednesdays on my Facebook group, Spiritism and the Spirit World Around Us. You can find a link to that on the right-hand side navigation bar on nwspiritism.com. You can join that group, please do. And then every Wednesday night, we'll give a talk. And I've been talking about Leon Denis' book, Here and Hereafter. Leon Denis, just a wonderful, he was called the Apostle of Allan Kardec, the Apostle of Spiritism. Okay, so I want to thank everyone for a wonderful night. God bless everyone. Please keep your spirits up. Know that your trials are there for a reason, and there's no trial that's made that you cannot be victorious. God bless everyone.